Hey, what is going on, guys? This is DK back at you with another video here to break down the 11-game NBA slate on Wednesday. So we're back to normal scheduling. I believe we have the semifinals tomorrow of the play-in. But yeah, we got 11-game slate to talk about here. If this is the first time watching cover content for DFS and for player prop stuff like PrizePicks Underdog and Parlay Play, guys, the sponsor of the video is PrizePicks. If you guys are not on PrizePicks, a lot of fun. I've been on it for years, but basically how it works is you're building out slips of player props. All the different sports are listed up here. You can mix and match sports. You build 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 6 player props in one slip. If you do hit all 6, you win up 25x your money. So if you want to give it a try, you can use the code DKDFS. 100% match up to $100. Link is down below. Highly recommend it if you're not on it already. All right, and recapping tonight, so we'll go over my lineup in the next video. I'm making this video just as the first game finished, the Knicks and Bucks game. I had like a decent start, a little bit. We'll see. I had relatively low in campaign, had a good game. Bobby Portis was fine. Middleton was solid. Hart was solid. Brunson was a little bit disappointing. So gonna need a big game for my late guys. I have Devin Booker as contrarian spend up, so hopefully he can take me to the cash. All right, so let's get into it again. 11 games, so we got a lot to talk about. First game is a really, and I mean really disgusting one. Orlando and Cleveland, two teams that play slow, two teams that are good defensively. Not much here on either side, I'll be honest with you. Paolo, Franz Wagner, Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs. Are these guys completely out of play? No, but I have a really hard time prioritizing them. Still no Carter Jr. and Fultz. You're going to get Batadze and Mo Wagner playing majority of the center minutes. There are times where you see a little bit of small ball. Jonathan Isaac, a 4-3. He's questionable to play, though. Gary Harris, Anthony Black, Joe Ingles kind of round out the rotation. I don't really think it's necessary to get to the value. So not much on the Orlando side, not a ton on the Cleveland side either. The one thing I will say about Cleveland is they run a very tight rotation. So that is a positive. But yeah, Mitchell 9-1, Mobley 7-9, more secondary plays. Garland 7-5, feels priced right. I guess my preferred option here would probably be Jared Allen at 6-7. He's been playing solid minutes, 30 plus now in 4 of the last 5 games. But yeah, I kind of have a tough time prioritizing anyone from Cleveland. Strus feels priced about right. Don't know if I'm going to mess with the bench. So let's talk about Memphis and Detroit. Memphis, still no Marcus Smart, no Luke Kennard. I believe they'll go back to Derrick Rose in the starting lineup with him back. So they've been switching up starting lineup a lot, but my guess is they go Rose, Bane, Roddy, Jaren, and Biyombo. At the top, you got Bane and Jaren Jackson in a good spot. This is where the offense is running from. I think Bane's a little bit safer because he doesn't have to deal with, getting in foul trouble every other game. Jaren obviously is super, super foul prone. You know this is the floor, but this is the ceiling when he can avoid it, right? So I always have interest in Jaren Jackson Jr., but a lot of it depends on ownership. If he's going to be relatively popular, that's when I'm more inclined to fade. If he's going to be low owned, that's when I'm more inclined to take a shot on him in GPPs. Aldama's been coming out the bench, but the minutes have been solid for him, 30 plus now in the last 2 games. He's an okay contrarian play. Biyombo and Tillman splitting the center position. And Derrick Rose, assuming he starts, I actually think is a solid option. I think he would probably play mid-20s minutes, 5.1K, reasonable price point there. Roddy's been starting the last couple games. If he continues to start, I think he's a fair value play, 25, 24, and 30 minutes over the last 3. But yeah, I don't know. The rest of this rotation, Zaire Williams, no thanks. Jalen Noel will play some off the bench, but his price is up. You know you're going to get the Noel troll, right? After he was massive chalk last game, played 34 minutes and shot 3 of 12. He's going to move back to the bench, and he's going to smash. You know what's going to happen. You know it. Vince Williams has even been in the rotation, but you could not pay me to play Vince Williams. Let's talk about Detroit. Detroit, this rotation is pretty disgusting right now. Cade and Duren are 2 guys I feel pretty good about in the rotation. You should see mid-30s minutes from Cade, assuming no foul trouble. Does have nice eligibility with guard and forward. I think Jalen Duren's my favorite play in the Pistons. I'm expecting low 30s minutes from him. I'm not really worried about him getting in foul trouble against the likes of Biyombo or Xavier Tillman. So I think Duren's my favorite play in the Pistons. Asur Thompson's moved to the bench, and he's gotten massive foul trouble back-to-back games. So I don't really know what the minutes are going to look like from him, assuming he continues to come off the bench. But the Pistons have just been switching up the starting lineup all the time. It was Killen Hayes start the year, then Ivy, then it's back to Hayes. If Hayes starts again, I think he's a decent option. 28 and 33 minutes over the last couple of games. The price is slowly ticking up on him. You get Isaiah Stewart at 5-3, kind of indifferent. Bogdanovich in his first game back played 27 minutes. If we get news he's no longer on a limitation, then I would have some interest in Bojan. Yeah, just you got Burks, you got Livers, Sasser could see the court. I don't know. This team they're running a lot of guys now. There are a lot of guys. Bagley might play a little bit as a backup 5, or it's Wiseman. I don't know. Outside of Cade and Duren, not a ton that I love. Maybe a little bit interesting, a guy like Bojan and Killian Hayes. Philadelphia, Washington. So you got Melton probable with an illness, basically fully healthy team now, and it's a great spot. So sign me up for some Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. I mean, as long as the Wizards can keep this game competitive, this is a smash spot for both these guys. It's not like they're super, super cheap, but again, the matchup is great here against the Wizards. You got Tobias at 7-2 and Melton at 6-5. Both feel priced about right. Also, Kelly Oubre is back. Now, it'll be interesting to see if he's on some sort of limit. If he's not on a limit and he was back into the starting lineup, then I actually do have some interest in a guy like Kelly Oubre. So we'll monitor that one. And yeah, with him back, again, kind of tough to get to Harris and Melton, assuming there's no limitations there. The wings, you got, Batum and Morris and Covington. I mean, it's been Covington last couple games. Before that was Batum. If you want to try to take a shot in one of these Philadelphia wings and hope you can guess correctly, be my guest. But an 11-game slate, I'll probably pass. But for the Wizards, Poole, questionable. DeLon Wright is still out. And Landry Shamet is questionable. Now, if Jordan Poole is out, my guess is you see Corey Kispert in the starting lineup. If Corey Kispert starts, he's going to stand out as a pretty good value play. I would assume he plays around 30 minutes. So, unfortunately, you're going to have some interest in Corey Kispert if there's no Poole. And then Kuzma gets a bit of a bump. The rest of the starters get a bit of usage bump as well. Kuzma would be the clear go-to guy in that scenario. Denny, Tyus Jones will look a little bit better if Poole is out. And then Daniel Gafford, I mean, this team, they don't have any other bigs, right? They're playing with Gallinari as the backup 5, so Gafford might be asked to play a little bit more here against Embiid and that's a big if he can stay out of foul trouble. So I'm intrigued by Gafford at 5-5 because I think he could see a minutes bump here to try to defend Embiid. Again, they're playing Gallo as the backup 5. They might as well dust off Mike Muscala or just throw him some minutes against Embiid, feed him to the Wolves. Yeah, so again, Poole news is pretty important. If Poole plays, then downgrade the other starters and the value plays don't look as good. Miami and Toronto, so no Bam, no Hero, also no Haywood Highsmith. You got Jimmy Butler at the top, 9.5K. Should see high 30s minutes. I think he's playable, but the price point I think is now about right without Bam and without Hero. Not necessarily the best spot either. But a lot of these wings look very similar to me. Duncan and Jaquez and Martin and Richardson all look pretty similar. Again, no Haywood Highsmith. Those guys should play decent minutes. I guess my favorite of the group probably would be Jaquez at 6-1. I think he plays around 30 minutes. But yeah, they all look pretty similar. Duncan probably has the lowest floor, but Martin, Richardson, Jaquez, they all look like decent options. Lowry at 5.9K. The minutes have been a little bit up and down. This is a revenge game, though, against Toronto. Maybe they'll pay him a little bit more. I never really buy into revenge narratives, though. And then the center position should be split between Orlando Robinson and Kevin Love. Everyone thought it was me Thomas Bryant at the start, but he got a DNP. They went to Orlando Robinson. Robinson started to play 29 minutes. We know he's not a bad point per minute guy. And then Kevin Love played 19 minutes. I think these minutes could fluctuate a little bit. Like if Orlando's struggling, they could play Kevin Love a little bit more. I wouldn't even be surprised if they dust off Thomas Bryant and play him a couple of minutes. So that's my only concern with these Miami bigs is I don't have a great read on minutes. And I think there's even a chance Thomas Bryant could play a little bit. Let's talk about Toronto. So Scotty Barnes, 8.8. I mean, he's going to play big minutes, 36, 38, 37 minutes over the last 3 games. Stat sheet stuffer. I have interest in him at the top. Nice eligibility. Pascal Siakam, same thing. Should play a ton of minutes. It's been a little bit quiet of late, but both the main Raptors think look solid. Dennis Schroeder feels priced about right, maybe a little bit overpriced. Jakob Poeltl, 6-1 minutes, been solid on him of late. I would expect close to 30. Makes him a decent option. His minutes kind of fluctuate a little bit. OG feels priced right. Precious will back up. Poeltl. We got Garrett Trent at 4.3K. Most likely he's mid-20s minutes. I think he's an interesting value play. If he's making shots, he has a ceiling. If he's not making shots, he has a pretty low floor. My boy Boucher is seeing rotation minutes, but, it's pretty inconsistent, so I don't know if I can go to him. All right, Brooklyn and Atlanta. This is a good spot here for Brooklyn. No Ben Simmons, still no Lonnie Walker. So Cam Thomas moved in the starting lineup last game. Mikal Bridges, 8.6. I mean, I like the matchup for him, but the price point feels about right. Spencer Dinwiddie with Cam Thomas back doesn't look as good, but he's still playing big minutes, so he's playable. I think Cam Thomas would be my preferred option of the big 3 here for Brooklyn. Moved in the starting lineup, played 38 minutes. Again, he's just 23 shot attempts, has the ball in his hands a decent amount as well. So I like the ceiling here on Cam Thomas. Claxton got in random massive foul trouble last game. That was my one and only miss that day, was him getting in massive foul trouble. Again, no one runs worse than me. You guys all know that, though. 6.8K. I think he plays around 30 minutes. The price point is ticking up on him, but still like the spot. Cam Johnson, I mean, the minutes should see around 30 or so. That feels like a correct price point. I don't know if I'm going to mess with Dorian Finney-Smith or Royce O'Neal. DSJ will play some backup point. Talk about Atlanta. So you got Trae Young 10-3, DeJounte Murray 8.1. Like the ceiling on Trae Young for tournaments. DeJounte Murray 8.1. He's kind of up and down. So both Atlanta guards think in play for GPPs for me. These wings have been getting a slight minutes bump without Jalen Johnson. Bogdanovich has been averaging, close to 30 minutes a game over the last 4. DeAndre Hunter, when avoiding foul trouble, usually plays 30-plus minutes. You saw mid-30s minutes for Sadiq Bey last game. The issue is the price points are all up on all three. So the wings are all playable for me, but no standouts. You're going to get Capella and Okongwu splitting the center position. Like I said, and I've said all season long, they're just secondary plays. If you feel really good about one playing more than the other, you can go for it. I think at their price points, I would lean Capella over Okongwu. And then, there's just no way I'm playing Wes Matthews or anyone like that. All right, San Antonio, Minnesota. A little bit of blow risk here for the Spurs. Zach Collins is probable. Devin Vassell is also probable. So I think Wembanyama is intriguing here at 9K for GPPs. He's put up some big games of late. 50-plus now in 3 of the last 4 games. But we know the ceiling on him. It's just a matter of, can the Spurs team keep it competitive? You got Keldon, you got Zach Collins, Devin Vassell, Sohan. All look like secondary plays to me. I'm not going to mess with any of the value or Trey Jones or anyone like that. But talk about Minnesota. So Minnesota, Anthony Edwards is questionable but expected to play. He was a full participant in practice, so I do expect him to go. And the issue here is a lot of these guys are priced up from when Ant was out, and now Ant is most likely back. So outside of Anthony Edwards, there's not much here. I think Ant would be the only guy I'm really considering here for Minnesota, assuming no limitations. I would expect him to go right back to high 30s minutes in a good matchup. So I do like Ant. I think Cat feels priced right. Gobert feels priced right. Conley maybe a little overpriced. NAW I think is overpriced with Ant back. Slow-Mo and Naz Reid feel a bit pricey. Troy Brown's definitely overpriced if assuming Anthony Edwards is back. So that's the issue with Minnesota. A lot of these guys are just overpriced. Charlotte and Chicago, no LaMelo Ball. Mark Williams is questionable. Mark Williams news is pretty significant. I would assume they start Nick Richards at 5. And then maybe play some PJ Washington back up 5 minutes. But as far as the main guys go, I like Rozier. He's playing big minutes right now, doing everything for the team, 40 and 35 minutes over the last 2 games. So sign me up for 8.1K Terry Rozier. Miles Bridges should be the number 2 on offense. He's playing big minutes as well. I think he's solid. I think he's a fine pivot off Rozier. I would expect Rozier to get more ownership. Hayward, Miller, and Washington, all reasonable options here in the mid-range. I think if there's no Mark Williams, PJ would be my favorite because I think he would play some backup 5 minutes, and that would boost his floor plus ceiling. And he's played pretty consistent of late over the last 5 games if you look at the game log. Again, Richards, if he starts, I think would be one of the best values in the board. His first game back, they limited him to only 9 minutes. But if there's no Mark Williams and he starts, I assume he's playing at least 20-ish minutes or so. Would like Nick Richards a lot there if there's no Mark Williams. If Mark Williams plays, I think he's playable in tournaments. We know he's been a little bit up and down and is foul prone, but the ceiling has been there for him. All right, let's talk about Chicago. So Chicago, you got no Levine, Caruso probable, Torrey Craig questionable. I like the main guys here. DeRozan and Vooch get a usage bump without Levine. It's a really good matchup. Vooch had an off game last game, but this is a great bounce back spot for him. DeRozan, we know, has been up and down, but I think the price points are a little bit too cheap for these guys, and they're playing big minutes. So sign me up for some Vooch, sign me up for some DeRozan. I think if I had to pick between the two, I'd actually would lean DeRozan, a little bit cheaper. And I think he does play a little bit more. But yeah, I like both the main Bulls, good amount. And Kobe White, the price is getting up on him, but he's playing huge minutes, 45, 40 minutes over the last couple of games. And yeah, he gets a bump in usage without Zach LaVine. So he looks solid. Patrick Williams, I'm fine with him. I would feel better about Pat Williams as no Torrey Craig, because then I think he would probably play 30-plus minutes. Caruso, minutes have not been amazing on him. Io will play off the bench. Drummond, he'll back up Vooch. If you think Vooch gets in foul trouble, you can take a shot on Drummond, but the price point is up on him. I guess if there's no Craig, then maybe Io does play a little bit more. Maybe they play a little bit more small ball. Talk about Oklahoma City and Houston. So you got SGA, 10.7K. Feels a little pricey for him, but not out of play. Chet at 7.9. Should see low 30s minutes, playable in GPPs. Jalen Williams, 6.4. I would expect him to play low 30s minutes. Again, secondary play. I'll probably pass on Giddey. It's just the minutes have not been amazing on him. They're actually ticking down. Played sub 20 minutes last game. Lou Dort has, been pretty quiet recently. A couple of decent games late, I guess. I don't really feel super confident in it. Isaiah Joe's been playing decent minutes off the bench. I would assume he plays mid-20s minutes. I actually think he's a decent GBP play. Payson Wallace minutes have been ticking up a little bit of late, 22 and 20 minutes over the last couple of games. I think he's viable for tournaments. I also think the big Jalen Williams is a little bit interesting. If Chet gets in some foul trouble, he could see extended minutes. Kenrich Williams is 3.3. He probably will see some rotation minutes, but I think I'd rather take the shot in Jalen Williams and hope, maybe Chet gets in some foul trouble and he sees extended run. On the Houston side, well, this should be a fun game to watch. You got Chet versus my boy Şengün. You know Şengün is going to feast. He has been smashing of late, and you just absolutely love to see it. Nothing makes me happier. 50-plus fantasy points in 3 of the last 4 games. And yeah, I'm not scared of Chet defensively, so sign me up for 8.9K Şengün. Van Fleet, 8.2, is just playing massive minutes. I think he's a very safe play. Stuff in the stat sheet. Jalen Green, fine for tournaments. Jabari Smith, more of a secondary play. Brooks, I don't think we need to go there. Eason and Tate, I mean, if there's not a lot of value, not a lot of great value, then these guys are in consideration. But if we get some good value opening up, depending on some injuries, then they're guys I'm probably not going to get to. Utah and Dallas, no Markkanen still, no Clarkson, and no Kelly Olynyk. Well, my boy Keontae George, 6.7K, price is ticking up. But the minutes are also ticking up. 36 minutes last game for Keontae George. 21 points, 6 boards, 6 assists. You love to see him smashing. There is a lot of blowout risk, I will say, in this game. Well, I guess we'll see who's available on the Dallas side. But yeah, I think Keontae's still playable. John Collins had a big game. His price is up, but we finally saw him crack 30-plus minutes. The rest of this rotation, I mean, I just don't know what the Jazz want to do right now. My boy, Yurt 7 is actually playing well. Went for almost 40 fancy points last game. Right now, he's splitting with Kessler. I would assume they want to play Kessler more, but I don't know. I think I still would prefer Kessler, but Yurt 7, if he continues to start, is actually playable. You saw Sexton play big minutes off the bench. He played 30 minutes. I think he's interesting for tournaments. Fontecchio's been playing pretty consistent minutes in the starting lineup. I think he's relatively safe, but again, not a super high usage player. THT feels a little overpriced. Agbachi feels a little bit overpriced. The rookie Hendricks got dusted off and played a little bit last game. He's 3.5K. Yeah, Utah, it's hard to trust this rotation right now. On the Dallas side, this team's hard to talk about. You got Kyrie questionable, Hardaway questionable, Grant Williams questionable, Josh Green out. You do have Dante Exum back. If all these guys are out, then obviously Luka looks amazing at the top. Last game in the Patreon stream, I really did a deep dive through the news in Kyrie. I didn't think he was going to play, so I said, I'm kind of playing for Kyrie to be out. Kyrie did get ruled out. We got Luka at lower ownership than he should have been, and he went for almost 100 fancy points. So if all these guys are out again, sign me up for some Luka against this bad Jazz defense. Also, Derek Lively had a career game last game. 20 points, 16 boards, 7 blocks. If he stays out of foul trouble, I'm intrigued by Lively. If all these guys are out, Derrick Jones Jr. should play big minutes. Exum probably starts and plays big minutes. Curry and Hardy will get decent minutes on the bench. So there'd be a good amount to like from Dallas if all these guys are out. If they're all in, then I still think you can look to guys like Luka and Kyrie at the top. I don't really know if I get to any of these secondary pieces. Portland and Golden State. So this one also has some blowout risk. No Jeremy Grant. DeAndre Ayton is doubtful. You do have Simons questionable. He participated in practice and it's just a thumb. So I assume he's good. And I also assume if he does play, he'll play normal minutes because it's just a thumb, unless we get news otherwise. So, I mean, the question here is, what do they do with the starting lineup, right? My guess is if Simons plays, I think they go a little bit smaller and go like Brogdon, Simons, Sharp, Kamara, and one of the bigs, either like Duop Reith or Jabari Walker. That's my guess. So, at the top end, well, okay, Simons at 5.5. So if he's in and no limitations, I really like Simons here at 5.5. He would be the go-to guy. Brogdon would still be viable at 8.5K, but I would prefer Simons to him. Same with Sharp, right? Like all 3 of these guys would still be in play, but if Simons is in and no limitations, Simons is the guy I'm looking to. Now, if Simons is out too and no Ayton and no Grant, then you're looking to Brogdon and Sharp running the offense. Then Scoot Henderson becomes interesting off the bench, or he could possibly even start Kamara. Thibault, these bigs will all look better. So again, we'll keep an eye on that news, and then we'll keep an eye on the starting lineup as well. If it's Jabari Walker that starts, I actually do like him quite a bit because he's not a bad point per minute guy, 4.4K. If they go to Duop Reith at 3.2, I think you got to have some interest in him. So there's definitely going to be some value here for Portland, depending on what they do exactly with the starting lineup. For Golden State, kind of tough for me to get to anyone. Chris Paul back, Wiggins back, fully healthy team. Great matchup, but if you want to consider some of these starters and GPP, sure. Steph Curry, the ceiling's always high in him. But Draymond, Clay, Wiggins, they're just running a deep rotation. There's some blowout rest in this game as well. So not much here for Golden State. Finally, Denver. Jamal Murray questionable. Aaron Gordon probable. If Jamal Murray misses, we know what's going to happen. Reggie Jackson's going to start. The price point, I probably wouldn't go there. Gordon and MPJ feel a little bit overpriced. The guy that I'm really interested in here is, once again, Nikola Jokic. I mean, I don't care what the price point is, really. 12.5K, I think, is still underpriced. So he looks better if there's no Jamal Murray. So, yeah, I like Jokic either way. And if Jamal Murray misses, I like him even more. Don't really know if I get to anyone else, though, on Denver. And finally, the Clippers. Big three, Paul George, Kawhi, Harden, all in play. They're playing big minutes right now. That is a positive. Westbrook is overpriced. You're going to see Zubac and Tice split the center position. If Zubac takes out of foul trouble, he does have a ceiling. If you think he gets in foul trouble, you can take a shot on 4.2K Daniel Tice. Powell, man, rounding out the rotation. I'll probably pass on those guys. All right, so that's going to do it for the video. As always, if you do enjoy, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Also, keep an eye out for PrizePicks video. We once again hit both our PrizePicks plays. We're on a massive heater. And yeah, we'll see if we can keep it going for tomorrow. So thanks again, guys, and we'll see you all in the next one.